Welcome back to Living Well After 50. Did you know that 1 in 3 people who experience a mini stroke will have a major stroke if untreated?
That's a scary statistic.
It is. And recognizing these 10 warning signs could save a life, so let's break them down. Sometimes it feels like our bodies have a language all their own, especially as we get older.
Absolutely, especially over 50.
But what if those aches, pains, and weird twinges weren't just random glitches?
Right, like what are they trying to tell us?
What if they were trying to tell us something important?
Could be. It's true, those subtle signs can be whispers from our bodies.
Like little hints.
Exactly. And some whispers are more urgent than others.
For sure.
Today, we're tuning into one of those urgent messages. The warning signs of a mini stroke.
Okay, so first things first. What exactly is a mini stroke?
It's also known as a TIA.
TIA, okay.
Mm,
Is it like a little blip that we don't need to worry about?
not quite. Imagine your brain's intricate network of blood vessels like a highway system. A mini stroke is like a temporary roadblock on one of those highways.
I see, so it disrupts things.
Yeah, disrupting the flow of oxygen-rich blood to a part of your brain.
So there's a blockage, but it's not permanent.
Exactly. The blockage usually clears on its own,
Oh, okay.
fairly quickly, and the symptoms disappear often within minutes or hours.
But I feel like there's a but coming.
But here's the catch. Even though the symptoms are fleeting, a TIA is a serious warning sign.
Oh,
Think of it as a flashing red light.
got it. So even though the symptoms vanish, it doesn't mean we should just ignore them.
Absolutely not. Remember that statistic we mentioned. 1 in 3 people who have a TIA will go on to have a full-blown stroke if the underlying issue isn't addressed.
And a major stroke, unlike a TIA, can cause lasting damage.
Right, impacting everything from movement and speech to memory and even personality.
Wow, that's a bit scary. Okay, so let's dive into these warning signs. The first one we're tackling is sudden weakness or numbness, usually on one side of the body. I imagine this could be pretty alarming. Is it like when your foot falls asleep and you get that pins and needles feeling?
It can feel similar, but the cause is very different. Remember that temporary roadblock in your brain's highway system?
Right, the TIA.
Well, different areas of the brain control different parts of the body. If the blockage affects the area responsible for movement or sensation on, say, the right side, you might suddenly feel weak or numb in your right arm or leg. It could even affect your face.
Making one side, like droop.
Yeah, droop or feel numb.
So it's like one side of your body is suddenly lagging behind.
Kind of, yeah.
That's strange. Are there any real-life examples of this?
The source material mentions someone struggling to button their shirt
Oh, wow.
or suddenly feeling like their leg was dragging while walking.
Okay.
It can be subtle or dramatic, but the key is that it's a sudden change.
That's really helpful. So if we experience any sudden weakness or numbness, even if it goes away quickly, we should see a doctor.
Absolutely. Don't dismiss it as just getting older or a pinched nerve.
Got it. I'm starting to understand why this is such a big deal. The second warning sign we're looking at is difficulty speaking or understanding speech. This one seems a bit more obvious, right? If your brain isn't getting enough blood, it makes sense that your speech would be affected.
Right, but it's more than just your brain feeling sluggish. The language centers of our brain are incredibly complex. When a TIA disrupts blood flow to these areas, it can create a kind of communication breakdown.
So someone might, have trouble finding the right words.
Exactly.
Or their speech might sound, jumbled.
Exactly. It's like having a word on the tip of your tongue, but you just can't grasp it.
Oh, I hate that feeling.
Or suddenly feeling like you're speaking a foreign language.
Wow.
It can be frustrating and confusing, both for the person experiencing it and for those around them.
Yeah, for sure. The material actually provided a very specific example of this, didn't it?
Yes, it mentions someone struggling to finish a sentence or unintentionally repeating words.
Oh.
These might seem like minor slip-ups.
Right, little things.
But they could be red flags.
So if we're suddenly fumbling over our words or having trouble understanding what someone is saying, it's worth getting checked out, right?
Absolutely. Don't ignore these signs, even if they seem to disappear quickly. They could be your brain's way of saying, hey, we need help here.
This is really eye-opening.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, the third sign we're discussing is sudden vision changes, including blurred vision, double vision, or even complete loss of vision in one or both eyes. Is it like your eyes are going bad all of a sudden?
Not necessarily. It's more about how your brain is processing visual information. Remember, a TIA disrupts blood flow to the brain, and that includes the areas responsible for vision.
So it's not that there's something wrong with the eyes themselves, but rather the brain is having trouble making sense of what the eyes are seeing.
Precisely. Imagine you're watching your favorite show, but the TV screen suddenly goes fuzzy,
Right.
flickers, or goes completely dark. Your eyes are sending the signal, but the receiver in your brain is having trouble interpreting it.
I like that analogy. Would these vision changes always affect both eyes?
Not always. A TIA can affect one side of the brain more than the other, so you might experience these visual disturbances in just one eye.
So even if one eye seems to be working fine, if the other one is acting up, we shouldn't just brush it off.
Exactly. Sudden vision changes are never normal, and they warrant immediate medical attention. It's better to be safe than sorry.
That's a good reminder. Okay, the fourth warning sign might surprise some people. A sudden, severe headache with no known cause. How is a headache related to blood flow issues in the brain? Wouldn't dizziness make more sense?
You'd think so, right? But a TIA disrupts normal blood flow, and this disruption can cause pressure changes within the blood vessels in the brain, which can trigger a sudden and intense headache.
So it's not your typical tension headache or migraine.
No, this is different. People often describe TIA-related headaches as the worst headache of their life,
Oh, wow.
coming on suddenly and without warning.
And this is especially concerning for us.
Yeah.
It's easy to dismiss a bad headache as just another sign of getting older.
It's tempting to brush it off, but in the context of a TIA, ignoring a sudden, severe headache could have serious consequences. If a headache comes out of nowhere and is unlike anything you've experienced before, it's a red flag.
I'm starting to see a pattern here. Our bodies often give us subtle warnings,
They do, yeah.
but we need to pay attention and not just write them off as getting older. What's the next sign we should be aware of?
The fifth warning sign is a bit more intuitive: unexplained dizziness or loss of balance. This one directly relates to the brain's role in controlling our movements, particularly through a delicate structure in the inner ear.
Our inner ear. What does that have to do with balance?
Your inner ear is like your body's built-in gyroscope. It relies on a constant supply of blood to function properly. When a TIA interrupts that blood flow, your inner ear can't do its job effectively,
Huh?
leading to feelings of dizziness, lightheadedness, or even a sense of spinning.
So it's like the room is spinning, even though you're standing still.
Exactly. You might feel unsteady on your feet or even lose your balance completely. This is particularly dangerous for older adults who are already at a higher risk of falls.
Right. The material highlighted a tip for dealing with dizziness, right?
Yes, it mentioned installing grab rails for support,
Oh, okay.
especially in areas like the bathroom where falls are more likely to occur. But remember, a grab rail is just a safety measure. If you experience sudden dizziness, even if it passes quickly, you still need to see a doctor to rule out any underlying issues like a TIA.
Good point. So we've covered 5 warning signs: sudden weakness or numbness, difficulty speaking or understanding speech, vision changes, a severe headache, and dizziness or loss of balance. What's next?
The sixth sign we'll discuss is confusion or memory loss. While occasional forgetfulness is a normal part of aging, sudden and pronounced cognitive changes could signal a TIA.
So how do we tell the difference between a senior moment and something more serious? I mean, we all forget things sometimes.
True, but the cognitive changes associated with a TIA tend to be more dramatic and out of character. For example, you might be in the middle of a conversation and suddenly forget what you were talking about,
Uh-huh.
or have trouble remembering familiar names or places.
The source material had a great example of this, didn't it?
Yes, it talked about someone forgetting what they were doing in the middle of a task.
Really?
Like, imagine you're making a cup of tea,
Yep.
and you suddenly can't remember if you've already added the tea bag.
Oh, okay.
These kinds of episodes, especially if they're out of the ordinary for you, could be a warning sign.
Okay, I'm starting to get a clearer picture of what we should be looking out for. So it's not just about forgetting things here and there. It's about a noticeable and sudden shift in our cognitive abilities. What's the 7th sign?
The seventh warning sign is sudden, intense fatigue.
Oh, okay.
The kind that hits you out of nowhere, even if you haven't exerted yourself.
Okay.
Our brains are energy hogs, and when a TIA disrupts that flow of energy even briefly, it can lead to a feeling of overwhelming exhaustion.
So it's like your brain is running a marathon, even though you're just relaxing in your favorite chair.
Exactly. And remember, we're talking about sudden, severe fatigue that comes out of the blue,
Right.
not the kind of tiredness you feel after a long day or a workout.
This one seems tricky. I mean, who doesn't feel tired sometimes?
Mm-hmm.
How do we know if fatigue is related to a TIA?
You're right, fatigue on its own might not be a cause for concern. But if it's coupled with other symptoms we've talked about, like weakness, dizziness, or speech difficulties, it's worth paying attention to.
So we're looking for clusters of symptoms, not just isolated incidents. What's the eighth sign we need to be aware of?
The eighth warning sign is difficulty swallowing, also known as dysphagia. This one might seem a bit surprising, but swallowing is a complex process involving multiple muscles and nerves under the brain's control.
I never thought about swallowing being so complicated.
It is, and when a TIA disrupts the brain's signals to those muscles and nerves, it can interfere with the swallowing mechanism,
Okay.
making it difficult to move food or liquids from the mouth to the stomach.
So someone might cough or choke when they try to swallow, or it might feel like food is getting stuck in their throat.
That's right, and this can be especially dangerous for older adults who may already have weakened throat muscles or other health conditions. It increases the risk of choking and aspiration, which is when food or liquid enters the lungs.
That sounds serious. The source material had a chilling example about this, didn't it?
Yes, it described an elderly person suddenly struggling to eat or drink without coughing or discomfort. This is not something to take lightly. If you or someone you know experiences this, talk to a doctor right away.
This is really making me think about all the things we take for granted, like swallowing. Okay, what's the ninth warning sign?
This one isn't a symptom itself, but a major contributor to TIAs and strokes. High blood pressure, also known as the silent killer. It often has no noticeable symptoms, but it's constantly putting extra strain on your blood vessels, making them more susceptible to damage.
Right, I've heard about that. High blood pressure can lead to all sorts of problems, but how does it specifically increase the risk of a TIA or stroke?
You imagine your blood vessels are like pipes. Over time, high blood pressure can damage those pipes, creating weak spots where plaque can build up. This plaque can narrow the arteries, restricting blood flow to the brain and setting the stage for a TIA or stroke.
So even if we don't experience any of the other warning signs we've discussed, if we have high blood pressure, we're still at an increased risk of stroke.
Exactly. It's crucial to monitor your blood pressure regularly, especially as you get older. There are easy-to-use digital monitors available that make it super simple.
Speaking of making things easier, the source material had a great suggestion for monitoring blood pressure, didn't it?
It did. It suggested using those digital monitors.
Huh?
They're readily available and quite affordable. Knowing your numbers empowers you to take control of your health.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, we've covered 9 points so far. What's the 10th and final thing we need to discuss?
The 10th point isn't so much a specific sign, but an overarching message.
Okay.
The importance of recognizing these warning signs and seeking immediate medical attention if you suspect a TIA. Time is brain.
Right, we've touched on this throughout our conversation.
Yeah.
But it's worth emphasizing again, even though the symptoms of a TIA often disappear quickly, they should never be ignored.
Exactly. Remember, a TIA is a warning sign, a dress rehearsal for a potentially much more serious event, a major stroke. By recognizing the warning signs and seeking prompt medical attention, you're giving yourself the best possible chance of preventing a major stroke and protecting your brain health.
It's like that old saying, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure, right?
Absolutely. And early intervention is key. When healthcare providers can identify the cause of a TIA and address it promptly, they can often prevent future strokes and other serious health complications.
The statistics really drive this point home, don't they?
They do. The source material mentioned that a staggering 80% of strokes can be prevented with lifestyle changes and medical intervention following a TIA. That's a powerful statistic.
Wow, that's incredible. It really highlights the importance of being proactive about our health.
It's all about empowering ourselves with knowledge and taking action. We need to be our own health advocates, especially as we get older.
Well said. This has been such an informative deep dive so far. Before we move on to what to do if you suspect a mini stroke, I'd like to remind everyone that we've got a free newsletter packed with valuable health insights specifically tailored for those of us over 50. You'll find the link in the description.
It's a great resource for staying informed and staying healthy. We cover all sorts of topics relevant to living well after 50, from managing stress and improving sleep to maintaining a healthy weight and boosting your energy levels.
We try to make it as user-friendly as possible. We know you're busy living your best life, so we cut through the clutter and deliver the information you need in a clear and concise way.
And it's all based on the latest scientific research and expert advice.
So be sure to check out the link in the description and sign up for our free newsletter. You won't regret it. Now let's dive into what actions to take if you think you or someone you know is experiencing a mini stroke. This is crucial information that could save a life.
We just went over those 10 mini-stroke warning signs, and it might seem like a lot to remember.
Yeah, it is a lot.
But trust me, it's worth it. This information could literally make the difference between a close call and a life-altering event.
That's right. Knowing the warning signs is a great first step, but knowing what to do if you or someone around you experiences these symptoms is just as crucial. What's the most important thing to do if we suspect a mini stroke is happening?
Don't wait.
Okay.
Don't hesitate. Don't try to tough it out. Call 911 immediately. Every minute counts when it comes to stroke. The faster you get medical attention, the better the chances of preventing lasting damage.
Why is acting quickly so important, even if the symptoms seem mild or are starting to fade?
Think of a mini stroke as your body waving a giant red flag. It's a sign that something is disrupting blood flow to your brain, and even a brief disruption can have a lasting impact. The longer that disruption goes on, the greater the risk of damage to brain cells.
So even if a mini stroke seems to resolve on its own, it's still a signal that there's an underlying problem that needs attention.
Precisely. Ignoring a mini stroke is like ignoring a flashing check engine light in your car. You might be able to keep driving for a while, but you're risking a major breakdown down the road. Getting medical help right away allows doctors to assess the situation, determine the cause of the TIA, and take steps to prevent a more serious stroke from happening.
That makes perfect sense. So calling 911 is priority number one. Is there anything else we can do to be prepared in case we suspect a stroke is happening?
Absolutely. Familiarize yourself with the FAST acronym it stands for.
Wait, tell me if I've got this right. FAST stands for face-drooping. Is one side of the face numb or drooping? Is their smile uneven?
Yep.
Arm weakness. So they would raise both arms evenly. Is one arm weak or numb?
That's it.
Speech difficulty. Is their speech slurred? Are they having trouble finding words or understanding you? And time to call 911. If you see any of these signs, don't hesitate. Call 911 immediately.
You got it. It's simple, easy to remember, and covers the most common signs of a stroke. Keep in mind that even if only one of these symptoms is present, you still need to call 911.
Okay, so we've talked about recognizing the warning signs and getting immediate medical help. Is there anything we can do to reduce our risk of having a stroke in the first place?
You bet. A lot of it comes down to the same healthy habits we've always been told about: eating a balanced diet, staying active, and managing stress.
Those are good for just about everything, aren't they?
Pretty much, yeah.
But how do those things specifically help with stroke prevention?
Think of it this way. Taking care of your overall health is like strengthening the foundation of a house. A strong foundation makes the whole structure more resilient to storms and other stresses. Similarly, when you prioritize your health, you're making your body more resilient to things like stroke.
So things like exercise and healthy eating aren't just about fitting into our favorite genes, they're about protecting our brains too.
Exactly. For example, regular exercise helps improve blood flow and strengthens your heart, both of which are crucial for stroke prevention. A balanced diet, low in saturated and trans fats, can help keep your arteries clear and reduce the risk of plaque buildup.
What about smoking? Isn't that a major risk factor for stroke?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Smoking damages blood vessels, raises blood pressure, and makes your blood more likely to clot, all of which increase your stroke risk.
So quitting smoking is a big one. What about alcohol?
Moderation is key with alcohol. Excessive drinking can raise blood pressure and contribute to other health problems that increase your stroke risk.
And I imagine stress plays a role too.
Definitely. Chronic stress can elevate blood pressure and contribute to inflammation, both of which are linked to stroke risk.
So managing stress is not just about feeling good, it's about protecting our brains. What about staying mentally active? I've heard that keeping our brains engaged can help ward off cognitive decline, including stroke.
There's a lot of truth to that. Engaging in mentally stimulating activities like reading, puzzles, learning new things, and socializing keeps your brain sharp and may offer some protection against stroke. It's like exercise for your brain.
It's amazing how everything is interconnected. Taking care of our physical health, mental health, and managing any existing conditions is a holistic approach to well-being.
You've got it. And remember, you don't have to navigate this alone. Talk to your doctor about your individual risk factors and what steps you can take to protect your health. They can help you create a personalized plan that addresses your specific needs and goals.
This has been such a valuable discussion. Before we move on, I want to remind our listeners about our free newsletter. It's full of tips and insights specifically for those of us over 50, all designed to help you live your best life. You can find the link in the episode description.
It's a fantastic resource. We cover everything from healthy aging and nutrition to exercise tips and strategies for managing stress.
We really try to make it a one-stop shop for all things related to well-being after 50.
Yeah.
Now, before we wrap up our episode on mini strokes, I want to share a personal story that really highlights why this topic is so important to me. A while back, my own dad started acting a little strange. He was having trouble finding words,
Uh-oh.
and his speech was slurred. He also mentioned a tingling feeling in his right arm.
Those are classic mini-stroke warning signs. It's amazing how those seemingly small things
I know, right?
can add up to a big red flag.
Right. Thankfully, my mom knew exactly what to do. She had recently been to a stroke awareness talk and learned all about the FAST acronym.
That's fantastic. That knowledge probably made a world of difference.
It absolutely did. Because she recognized the signs, she didn't hesitate to call 911. My dad was rushed to the hospital and diagnosed with a TIA.
That quick action probably saved him from a much more serious outcome. It really underscores the importance of, being informed and prepared.
I definitely think so. After a few days in the hospital and some follow-up care, he made a full recovery. It was definitely a wake-up call for our whole family.
I can imagine. It's a stark reminder that these things can happen to anyone, even those closest to us.
Yeah.
But knowing the signs and acting quickly can truly be life-saving.
My dad's experience really motivated me to learn more about stroke
Yeah,
and to share that knowledge with others,
of course.
which is a big part of why we're doing this episode today.
And I think that's so important. We're equipping our listeners to be their own health advocates
Right.
and to take those vital first steps towards prevention and early intervention.
That's a powerful message. So as we wrap up our deep dive into mini stroke warning signs,
Yeah.
what's the one thing you want our listeners to remember?
Mini strokes are serious, but they're also treatable.
Okay.
By knowing the warning signs, seeking immediate medical attention, and working with your doctor to manage your risk factors, you can significantly reduce your chances of experiencing a major stroke and safeguard your health and well-being for years to come.
That's a great message to end on. Thank you for joining us for this important conversation. It's been a pleasure sharing these insights with you.
The pleasure was all mine. I hope our listeners feel empowered to take control of their health.
And to all our listeners out there, remember, living well after 50 is all about being proactive and informed. Be sure to subscribe to our newsletter for more tips and information on living your best life. You can find the link in the episode description. Until next time, stay healthy and stay well.